All right. Hey, we're gonna do a recording here this evening. I've got two wonderful gentlemen. My name is Jason Pomeroy. I'm the director of operations for Something Out of Nothing, a nonprofit project. We are going to talk this evening. Oh, and hey, we are live and we're bringing in Greg Washington right now as we were talking. Greg, I'm glad you could join us. We literally just started recording. I'm going to go through my spiel and introduce the team real quick, and I'll bump to you, and you'll kind of hear it live, man. So I'm Jason Pomeroy. Like I said, we recording right now, and I've got Earl Porter, who is the founder of Something Out of Nothing, and he's doing the hard work for our organization and walking north to south from Maine to Georgia along the Appalachian Trail in the wintertime. And he's doing that so he can raise awareness for veteran suicide and mental health. I've also got Lou Koon, who's here from the Army as a Lieutenant Colonel Chaplain, who has had over 1,600 successful interventions with people that were contemplating suicide, as well as trained over several thousand people to do the same thing. And then obviously, Greg, I'm glad you could join us. I know you had some delays in your flights today, but Greg just wrapped up his own walk to raise awareness about veteran suicide and mental health and ended his walk on 9/11. So this evening, what we're going to talk about are those topics. We're going to show where these different organizations overlap. We have Something Out of Nothing, which Earl started. We have the Armed Forces Mission, which is what Lou started. And then we had Greg C's Washington's organization, and he's going to talk a little bit more about that as well. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Earl, and kind of let you guide the conversation, man.
Appreciate it. Hey, Greg, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I haven't landed yet.
Oh, wow. All right, so Greg, you're still landing. All right, we got Ken. Ken can hear me. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. So quickly, I'm going to talk about why you two are on the mic with me. I'm going to introduce my organization. Then I'm going to have you guys introduce your organizations. And then hopefully we can just do a quick 15 minutes of any advice you guys have for me from your different perspectives as I go across my journey. So why are both you guys in my meeting? So we do Thursday meetings and Something Out of Nothing, and this is the meeting on Wednesday that's informing our Thursday meeting. And the significance is we just came out of the first 100-mile wilderness of the Appalachian Trail. That was our kind of litmus test to find out, hey, do these legs still actually work? You know, how cold is cold? What kind of gears, do we have, and what do we need, and whatnot? And so this is going to be our first kind of coming out of the wilderness meeting. And I wanted you to inform in it because on my right, I've got Greg Washington. Greg's kind of in that bigger brother role. He's already led this fight. I'm going the Appalachian Trail. He's gone from Mount Bayou to New York recently. His last day was my first day. There's a lot of me I see in him and a lot of what I want to be in him. And he's a fellow infantry officer, a couple years older. And then I got Kenneth Lou Koon, who's kind of my alum from my alma mater, a chaplain, wraps me around spiritually, and he's been in the trenches of this fight for, I don't know how many years now, Ken, but he is literally at the tip of this spear fighting veteran suicide single-handedly with the cell phone number and his wits. And I want you all informing me as I start this journey. So anecdotally, that's why you're here, and I won't dilute the purpose of y'all's missions by trying to summarize it, but trying to give you mine. So I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago or a month ago for over a month for you, Greg. This is what we've distilled our mission down to. Project Something Out of Nothing is going to complete the Appalachian Trail between 9/11 and February 22nd, 2022. We're going to document moments along the Appalachian Trail to generate hope. And we're going to commit our audience to friendlies along the trail. We got a specific definition of friendlies, but we're going to hopefully generate over $1 million in trust for veteran support And that'll be with the sponsorship, or excuse me, the partnership we have with Sept Initiative. So in short, Project Something Out of Nothing, we're trying to add value by using our ability to synergize efforts to mitigate veteran suicide. When we say synergize efforts, we're saying we hope to generate hope at scale, build formidable teams across uncommon boundaries, identify bona fide resources for disadvantaged populations. Our focus is to raise awareness for veteran suicide, be a source in and of ourselves in the current and also in the prospective for veteran quality of life. We want to enable veterans to feel like, hey, they can ask for help whenever they need. Kind of levering the arguments that came before me, we see the battlefield as the ingredients of isolation, toxic relationships, and financial stress being what leads to veteran suicide. We don't really have an opinion on what percentage of which ingredient leads, but we do understand that the fragility of being human, whether it's 100% isolation or 100% financial stress or 33, 33, 33, we understand we're human and we eventually crack. And our theory is that if we breach isolation, we can at least identify financial stress and toxic relationships. And so we want to highlight that although this population of American veterans and White Star families, those left behind due to suicide, is strong, it's also filled with silent sufferers who are in the scope of influence of the general public. And we believe that the general public, if it were aware, with appropriate awareness, they'd willingly help to mitigate the risk of suicide amongst the veteran population. And so we hope to assure that every veteran feels comfortable asking the American public for help. And that's our mission statement. If we can get people to hopefully spread awareness, and even if they feel more convicted, donate. I'm gonna pause there and just kind of have you guys interject your mission statement, please. What guards down, what House of Man, what AFM is for. Start with Ken Koon.
Well, you want to go by Earl or Chico now?
Let's do Chico, man.
Okay, that's the way I knew you. So appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys. Jason, it's great to meet you. I hopefully get an opportunity to meet Greg at some point. But I'm excited about the fact that we're all on here together right now. We've got a clear mission. It's really a joint operation. No single organization can do it by ourselves. I know Armed Forces Mission can. I've done over 1,600 suicide interventions, and we've trained almost 21,000 people to do the same thing. So the main reason that we train people is because we can't do it by ourselves. But Armed Forces Mission was formed in 2012 out of my own desperation. My oldest son, who was Air Force, he was at Charleston Air Force Base. I was at Fort Jackson, had to go down to Charleston. And we were walking around the ship, the old ship, the USS Yorktown, that sits in the harbor there. It's an old tour ship now. And he asked me the suicide question. Nobody had ever done that. And I said, yeah, I have been. I've been thinking of suicide. And, you know, the incredible thing is I got back on the bus with my team, went back to Fort Jackson. And the next day there was a knock on my door. I was getting ready for PT. It was about 5:45. And it was my oldest son. He had gotten permission from his flight leader to leave Charleston about 4 o'clock in the morning to be at Jackson. He said, I got to go to Jackson to check on my dad. I didn't have any idea he was coming. And he ran. So he's Air Force, and he ran PT that morning with the U.S. Army. And we're running up a hill. If you've been to Fort Jackson, you know there's a road over there. It's pretty steep. They call it Suicide Hill. And he stayed by my side the whole time. And then we got through with the duty day. He was sitting in the class with me and got through, and he said, Dad, get your gym clothes on. We're going back to the gym. And so that's why I'm sitting in my gym right now at the house here, is because this is where I feel comfortable, and this is what saved my life. And so a couple of years later, we formed Armed Forces Mission. We've been at it now full time ever since. And not only working to train veterans and veteran organizations, but law enforcement, because law enforcement gets the calls to the veterans house. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I have had situations where a veteran said, well, I had one that was in Colorado, I'm here in Atlanta, and he knew that I wanted to call law enforcement to do a health and welfare check on him. And he kind of put me between a rock and a hard place. He said, if you do that, I'll just let them kill me. And so you don't call the police in that situation because you don't want them to be put in a position where they're going to shoot a veteran. And so we train as many law enforcement personnel as we can all over the country, along with clinicians, because clinicians, they haven't been in the trenches. They don't know the mindset of a veteran. And a lot of them, quite frankly, do not have that much training in suicide intervention. They will tell you, unless they specifically are working in that area, they don't get a lot of training in suicide intervention. So we're training everybody we can, because the bottom line is you're going to know a veteran that I don't know. And if you can get to them, that's one more veteran saved. And so that's what we do. We have one mission and one mission only, and that is to turn the tide on suicide. And we've been doing it now since 2012, and we're going to keep doing it.
I love you for it. I love you for it. So, little caveat: when I was aspiring to start this initiative, I wanted to generate people like Ken and Greg. And then, as I did my research and learned my terrain, there are already Gregs and Kens out there. So, thank you for leading the way on that. Greg, you able to hear us, man? I know you're landing right now. Don't want to catch you at a bad time.
Yeah. No, I'm able to hear you. It's going to be a little bit. We just landed, so we're pulling up to the terminal now, to the gate. So if you hit Ken with a couple more questions, I should be at a point where I can speak. That's amazing what y'all are doing.
No worries. Well, I'll try to summarize for you, Greg, if you don't mind. Cut me off if you do. What I know of Greg is Greg was a freshman at West Point when 9/11 occurred. He was playing football, and he decided to take his path from there. And by the time he was a senior, was the captain of the football team. He was branching infantry. And instead of going to the NFL draft, which he had every right to do, and instead of going to Ranger school, he chose to go to Iraq. And what he soon found out, like all of us did, there's nothing fair in love and war. And he lost 3 good friends. I think Emily Perez is the name that's closest to me. And returned from war and got out, I think, around the 4 or 6 year mark. Went to MBA, found himself successful, starting businesses, and then found himself in trauma and saved only by his 8-year-old cousin, asking whether or not he was going to come to church one day. And he continued forward from that moment, starting House of Man on the right as a nonprofit, Guards Down on the left as a for-profit, with podcasts and whatnot, and was continuing forward, Charlie Mikan, until last spring when a significant friend of his ingested a gallon of bleach on Facebook Live. And when that person did that, Greg Washington and his team fought with every tooth and nail to try to save that person's life. They eventually got to that person and they were still living, but by the time they made it to the emergency room, they weren't able to make it. And Greg Ken just decided to walk. He did a literal movement to contact. His team wasn't ready. They advised him to wait. And Greg's whole impetus was how many lives will be lost each day that we wait. And that number for him became 22. And he found that incomprehensible and it started to walk. And so once he started to walk with no team, you know, he did the infantry thing, but Mother Nature said he had to slow down. He got hit by a tornado in Mississippi. His mentor acquired him the ability to get to some resources. I think then he got Lazy Days RV to donate RV, and ever since then, he's been hiking all the way, and he just completed in West Point on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 by doing a tailgate and talking to the football team. And so here I am, May, June, somewhere around there, deciding to do this. And I think I'm my own lone wolf ranger doing my own thing or whatnot. And I'm defining it as a movement to contact. And I just started on 9/11. Here he is just saying, hey, I'm going to start walking. And he is the definition of a movement to contact. And so, yeah, sorry if I stole your thunder there, Greg. I hope I gave it justice, but I look up to you high hand. So after we got everybody introduced, I guess what I'm looking for here is for you all to inform me. So Ken, with your perspective, with what you know of me, we met, we had lunch, and you know what I'm about to do. Is anything percolated maybe to advise me upon, you know, in these future months I have? I know that I'm going to come across vulnerable people, and I'm going to want to get them the resources proximate to them. You know, like I don't want a person in Maine depending on someone in Georgia for something that might need to be urgent. But you know, digesting your book, Listen, Learn, Lead, is there any kind of doctrinal approach you think I should take? Is meeting people who might need help at a moment's notice?
Well, you know, I'm sitting here thinking about what you're doing, and the reality is suicidal people are all around us. People that are having thoughts of suicide. We used to say it was 1 out of 20 people every year that you meet are having thoughts of suicide. And now since we got hit by COVID, it's 1 in 10 people that are having thoughts of suicide. So you have to have some understanding that there's probably some folks on the trail that you're coming across. And I don't know if it's 1 out of 10, but there's going to be people on the trail that are having thoughts of suicide. And maybe they're walking because of that. And they're hoping that they'll find something. It's no different. It's no different from somebody being stuck 75 yards out in a riptide and they're flailing their arms. They're not looking at the little boy playing with a beach ball, hoping that he'll help them. They're looking at the lifeguard standing on the tower with the buoy that can jump in the water and go help them. And that's the reality. You know, I tell people all the time, I tell pastors when I train pastors, you do realize, pastor, that 1 out of 10 people are having thoughts of suicide. And you do realize, pastor, that in the 30 days before someone kills himself, 35% of the time, they will go to church, even if they're not regular church goers. So a lot of people think, well, if you're going to church, you must be happy. No,
Right.
That's not necessarily true. And if somebody's walking on the trail and you run across them, that don't mean that they're happy-go-lucky and they're wearing rosy-colored glasses. It may be that they're trying to run from their demons that are chasing them, and you happen to be the person that intersects with them. So what do you do?
Ken, it's funny you say that. I met someone yesterday. I'll withhold from saying the name, but we're hiking. And she straight said, hey, I've got 800 miles left to go. And of the men that I've met on the trail, so she's already hiked 1,600 miles, or, you know, a little bit less, 1,400 miles. They're either young coming out of college, old retired, or military age males walking off the trail, or walking off a war, walking off a trauma. And what is cool about that is I learned through her that Earl Shaw is the first person ever through hike the trail, and did so to walk off World War II.
Yep.
Like what? And I thought that was just completely serendipitous given what you just said.
Yep. That's the reality. I mean, especially nowadays, you've got so many people, we were talking earlier before we got online here tonight, I think, talking about isolation. And so we have experienced isolation to the 10th degree over the past 18 months. And so people are trying to find themselves again. I mean, you are in a strategic location. You really are, because there's a lot of people that you're going to come across that are chasing after hope again. And if they don't, unfortunately, if they don't find it, what's the outcome going to be? 'Cause I'm a chaplain. I got to tell you this, the good book says without hope, people perish. And so I'm going to tell you, Chico, you might be their hope. That's the reality. Right. And so don't take it for granted that might truly be a possibility sooner than later.
Appreciate that. Greg, you with us? I think you might have. He went from emblem in the background to just the phone. That's not. There you go.
Hello?
Hey, you able to work with us?
Yeah. We're good. We'll hear a couple of things and some people moving around, but we're good. Man, I will tell you firsthand from my experience, which you did good. You kind of explained the overview of it.
Yeah, awesome.
And so, just like Ken was saying, you're going to meet people that what you're doing is an inspiration to them. I can't tell you how many folks along the walk that I've met that was either suffering in silence or had dealt with suicide themselves or dealt with a family member that was close to, to suicide. And so being that spark of hope, not only for yourself, but for others, it really does make a difference. And I remember just being in my bubble because it's you and your platoon sergeant that's out there. And so once you hit, the mainstream media of what you're doing, you're not necessarily going to know the impact that you're going to have on the people around you, unless they directly make contact with you. And what I found out was that people were talking, the buzz was getting out there. And so we're going to affect and help you folks that you may never come in contact with one day, but because of what you did and what you're doing, it's going to spark a conversation or a thought that will lead them to a better place.
I appreciate it. I found everything so far to be pretty serendipitous. We wanted to emulate the path of veteran, on their transition through whatever they experienced in the military to whatever they experienced after. And so we started in the north, doing a winter southbound through hike. And when you start in the north, that means you're going to deal with the 100-mile wilderness right off the bat. And so we started that, and it was a 6-day problem set. And the first 3 days were sunny. The halfway point had some steak involved with it. And then the last half of it was rainy, cold, lonesome. And I had a nice injury on my hand at the end of it that I had to go get out of the woods a little faster than normal to go get some medical attention. And so we found that to be really analogous, if you will, to a veteran saying, hey, I'm getting out in 20 whatever, and they have a plan, and then the plan meets Murphy's Law or whatnot, and next thing you know, they've got a real world issue they need to handle. And it's like adopting bad coping mechanisms or adopting whatever that leads to isolation, toxic relationships, financial stress. And so it's already jumping off this trip, what are we, 11 days in, is already super parallel to a soldier's trajectory. And we're just trying to beat into our friend's head that they should please yell out the teammates. That's what we did to get this team together. We got Jason, he's a teammate since I first became an infantry officer. He was, I think, a squad mate or a platoon mate in IPOL. And we just literally, I asked him for help and he said, I'm there. And from 1, you get 2, from 2, you get 4, from 4, you get 8. It takes a village. I sincerely appreciate you guys joining me. And I hope you guys take me literally. I've got 4 months, 2,200 miles. I would love to see you guys out here at some point in time. I don't care where. Please just let me know or let Jason know how to make it happen.
Brother, you keep pushing. I'm thankful for what you're doing, and it is about raising awareness and then taking it a step further. I want to see you in a class eventually too. So when you get done, I want to see you in one of our classes. So
I love it.
Maybe next time we get together, we can talk about the dynamics of the class, listen, learn, lead, and the core values there, because those core values were values that saved my life. And now that's what I teach and preach to everybody else. And it's working to help other people stay alive. So you are in my thoughts and prayers. You're going to come across people that are looking for hope, and I want you to be that hope.
Thank you. Well, as long as I keep standing on your shoulders, I got a sturdy foundation.
There you go. Well, man, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Indeed. I mean, honestly, I would say we could talk about that now, because there's of course, there's a lot of synergy. With what we're doing, and Ken, with you sharing your story. So I did an 1,800-mile walk from Mount Bayou, Mississippi to Fort Bragg, North Carolina to Fayetteville, New York. I meant to go to West Point, New York, not Fayetteville. Fayetteville is my hometown. What I was going to tell you about Fayetteville was the weekend I made it there, a close friend of the family, also a veteran, you see all the signs of suicide. And so isolation, toxic relationship, financial stress. I asked him to come on the bus with us. 2 weeks, 30 days, just get on the bus. You didn't have to take care of nothing. I got you. And he made every excuse in the book of saying that he was going to catch up with us. In less than 30 days, I got a call saying that he had died from an overdose. And all I could think about was, what more could I have said to him? What more could be done? At some point, when does a person have to accept and own up and be accountable for, their own life and their own actions? And so it pushed me to the point of wanting to, or getting ready to create a national suicide prevention campaign. And that campaign is 2 parts. One, where we're going to do specific ads that will go out nationwide. And then 2, I'm going to be gathering folks like Chico that are veterans, that are motivational speakers, where we can go to all these different military bases and do these speaking engagements to talk about mental health and suicide prevention, and promoting all the resources that base or that community has to offer. And so part of this is giving people tools to help them save themselves, because one of the things that I found is that when you're in your most darkest moments, you're usually alone. And so giving someone the tools to be able to save themselves, to go from being a victim to a survivor to their own hero, is kind of the base model that we've been looking at. And so part of my organization, the other part that we're doing or that we're touching on, is telehealth. So telehealth services for mental health. And the premise around it is cultural sensitive therapy. If your therapist looks like you or has been through a similar experience you've been through, then the connection will be deeper, which in turn will make the treatment more effective. And so, as I transition from the walk completing these upcoming months and year, we're going to transition it to becoming a tour. And so I would definitely love for, Chico, once you to finish your walk, to come on tour with me, and Ken, you as well. And we could possibly look at, taking this on the road, because my goal is to bring all of these agencies together so that we can show somewhat of a united front when it comes to helping others, because, everybody's tribe is different. And so being able to connect you with a group of like-minded people that fit, I think that's key.
It is. And that's what it's beautiful. That's what where we are, is trying to find out who to connect in the time and space. Finding you two, this is our first exercise. Connecting you guys and let's see what happens. It informs us. I learned so much by Ken. I learned so much by you, Greg. I'm excited for the idea. I mean, so like an idea of ours is to literally walk through all 15 or 17 states that the AT walks through, and just say, please yell out the teammates. Here's some friendlies. Here are friendlies in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, all of these states, all the way down. Call them if you need help. And if you're anywhere in the world, this number might work too. Just let you guys know it's okay. It's totally cool to ask for help. That's how anyone makes it. Because I don't know, the only thing that's more inclusive than American is veteran. You know what I mean? Like, you can really group a lot of people into that one word, and a lot of people can see a common purpose. So I hear you loud and clear there, Greg.
Chico, I think we've probably maxed out our ability to reach an audience and maintain their attention for tonight. But I think the conversations had between the people in this call right now are very powerful and a very great starting point. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody that's on the call right now. Greg, thank you for making that effort to get on. I know you're
as you're landing.
Travel. Hey, there he is. We got him.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks, man. We appreciate you being on. We might have to circle back and grab you up again at some point if we can make that happen. But really appreciate you being on tonight, man.
I appreciate y'all. I'm definitely open to it.
Oh man, I love it. This makes my heart, dude. I'm about to go walk 20-something tomorrow, and it's gonna be like butter. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Lou, your stories are so inspirational, man, and thank you for everything you're doing with your organization. That's awesome. Chico, we will be in touch. Be safe out there. Don't get hurt anymore, so we don't have to find a new guy to replace you.
Exactly.
I'll chill in my house and enjoy like living and sleeping in my own bed and stuff. You go out there and walk that trail tomorrow, man.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Y'all take care.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
All right, now.